Brett Whitacre, born and raised in Belvidere, Illinois. I'm a full-time artist, studio artist, and muralist. Growing up in Belvidere, got heavily into skateboarding first. That was soon replaced by, well, I never really left skateboarding until much later, but playing drums, playing in metal bands, thrash bands in high school. Really fell in love with being a musician. And as far as being an artist, strictly dabbling, like doing sketches to show my mom and see if she liked it, very not seriously, not professionally thinking, Never thought that that was a career path. Yeah. When I moved to Chicago in 2001, I guess I started to see it more. There's a gallery on almost every block, or in certain neighborhoods. There's street art on the walls. I used to walk alleyways and just notice what's going on. There's people throwing away stuff. Like, the city purges so much stuff, and I like to collect junk, which I thought was like treasures, and I'd start bringing it home and doing art on that, like a window, an old TV that someone chucked out, some old hard shell luggage. Yeah. So the city was very inspiring, like the urban decay and the new growth, and also the decay in neighborhoods and the expression that I saw that was just kind of everywhere I looked. Advertising, graffiti, art in galleries. It was different from Belvedere. I guess going back to before I moved to the city, I started modifying junk. Find an old chair that's got a cool design or good pipe work or something on the side of the road. I used to reupholster chairs with like fake fur and stuff, and my surroundings, my room, when I moved out of my parents' house, I lived here first. I just started surrounding myself with like stuff that I would modify or make, or I covered my entire bedroom in fur at one point, and so I'm just like modifying things. I also worked at print shops here in Belvidere and Rockford, and I would make my own pads of paper with my own art on it. Like post-it notes. I'd make my own business cards and start screen printing on my own clothes. Just always like modifying my life, or like bedazzling my stuff. My parents were very, very supportive of whatever I was doing. Playing drums. My band practiced at their house. It was a loud speed metal band with full-size stacks twice a week, for like 3 or 4 hours. They could have been against that, but they liked knowing where I was, and they liked my friends, and they were very cool with that. And so as far as like doing artistic things, they always applauded it and were supportive. And that's very important. Not so much. My parents never did anything in the way of art. My mom later on, when she saw what I was doing, she started doing crafts of her own and building things. And she was a seamstress too, and she did make clothes. That was one of her pastimes. Yeah. Well, I'm colorblind. I do see color.
Okay.
But the colors I see are wrong. Usually, they're not what regular or normal people see. But it's been narrowed down to my type of color blindness. I can't think of the crazy word that it's called, but I have a pretty rare type. They said that only 2% of colorblind people have the type of color blindness I have. It deals strongly with the red and green keys. It was explained to me that the keys in your eyes that overlap to decipher color, my red and green are overlapped too far, like all the way. So when I'm deciphering red and green, it's like there's a brown filter and everything. So red is muddier, it doesn't look as vibrant to me, and it can totally flip-flop with greens. Could be a sunny day and I'm seeing something red, okay, and then a cloud comes along and changes the light a little bit. All of a sudden, that's green. It totally changed. And like bright orange grass in front of your house is the way I perceive it. That's one reason I paint in gradients, because say you got like in a line of blue, there's 9, from light to dark. And blue's a bad example because I can see blue all right, but in red, from like lightest pink to like a rich red, somewhere in the middle they all look the same. So I can't really pick my favorite. But if I paint them, here's from the light one all the way to the dark one, I can at least see that value change. So that's the main reason I use all of them, because I can't just pick one because I don't know, I can't confirm if that looks good or not. Yeah.
And do you ever find it challenging?
Definitely. Working with customers who are particular about color, and the way people talk about colors too is different. Everybody has their own language.
Yeah.
What they're calling teal is not necessarily what other people perceive as teal. It's kind of broad. A lot of people, I've met some people that call all shades of gray, they call it white, but they just call it like dark white. Okay. So there's like a terminology there that creates difficulties. And if I'm working for a client that's like a business that has a very specific color, I have to say, and I tell all clients that I'm colorblind too, and it doesn't scare them away because they've seen what I can do. But say we need to be specific. Give me the number of that color. If it's got to be that, then I'll go to the store and buy that number. So it's solved that way. Yeah, they usually are, and it's because they don't understand it fully. But I've never seen it as like a big problem. I do see colors. I see vibrant colors. They're not what everybody else sees exactly. I did recently get these glasses that somewhat correct that or make me able to see reds and differentiate the greens from the reds. It just accentuates anything with red in it. So now I can finally see purple next to blue, and I can see orange instead of green, and like the red and orange are just on fire now in a way I've never seen. And I'm like, is this okay that I'm using these colors? Is this too hot? My wife's like, no, don't change anything. Like, yeah, it's fine. People like that.
Yeah, man.
My first mural, it was like, they really didn't care what I did. They saw that I did some art and they trusted me, and they're like, do something cool within that space. So, and I did something very multi-colorful and probably color gradients and stuff. I don't talk about that first mural too much because it wasn't that professional. I used like not high quality paint, and I painted with a brush. It was before I started using spray paint and fell in love with that. So, it was when I was living in Michigan for a little bit. I would have been like 30, 32 or something. But then there was many years that went by before I became a muralist. At the age of 40 is when I did my first good mural, I say. Yeah. 'Cause I was doing other things before that. I was a professional musician on the road for 10 solid years. Like just never around. It's a band from Nashville, Tennessee called the legendary Shack Shakers. And it was like blues, rockabilly based. It was a hybrid, and I'm a metal drummer. So I had double kick drum, and we're blazing fast, and we had an upright bass player. The lead guy even played a harmonica like I've never seen anybody play, and he's amazing. And we had a rock guitar player. So it was this crazy band that was already signed to a label and had a major booking agent when I joined. Before that, I spent like 4 years slugging it out in Chicago, just playing with everybody to get to that point. And then I kind of got drafted by a professional band. But from the age 29 or 30 till 10 years, almost exactly later, I was gone close to 200 days a year. Europe 4 times a year, 48 states, Canada. Over that time, I developed myself as an artist, though, as a visual artist. Yeah, I'd come home from tours sometimes be like 3 weeks to 6 weeks long. And we actually made money. So come home with money and not have to work in that period of time that I'm home. So I'm just having fun. And I just got done traveling to Europe or traveling the U.S. all over. I got nothing but ideas, So I come home totally fueled with ideas and just making art the whole time. Try to reconnect with some loved ones. Your life is in a blender then because you're just gone. Then you come home, reconnect with your girlfriend, but I'm pretty selfish with my time, so I just started pumping out artwork and getting it up on walls in Chicago, and then go back on tour. Well, the first time I built up like a body of work, like 28 pieces, and I didn't know how to get an art show, but I did know how to book my band, my Chicago bands. So it was right around that time I did my first art show, and I'm leaving for tour with the Nashville band. I threw a party for myself. Say, I got this club, all 3 of my bands I'm in, we're all gonna play. I did 3 sets that night while running an art show. And I set up the old art show. It was in a club, a rock club called Subterranean. And they never hosted art before, but I brought in lights, just loaded up the whole upstairs balcony with my art. And by the end of the night, I sold 14 out of 28 pieces. And not just to friends that want to be supportive, but to total strangers. And that told me, like, hey, this could be something too. Like, I'm going to do more of this. That's like rewarding. I made some art and it sold somehow. At the time, it was like I had been trying to become professional musicians for so long, and now I'm on the road, getting paid every night and seeing places. I was very into that, but just my favorite pastime when I came home, just being like having the freedom for once not to have to go work a day job. Just create art, create a piece a day. Because it was paying off, you know. Nowadays with PayPal, back then with PayPal payments and stuff, someone could call you and say, hey, I want to buy this piece at this cafe. And you saw it right there over the phone while cruising down the road. So it became a nice back and forth, make money while making money. Yeah, that's been most of my life. Honestly, yeah, I played way more music. Ever since graduating high school and before, I've always been in multiple bands, and bands that went places, bands that didn't go places, but always trying to make it and just play with everybody. I played every style of music too, not just metal. I toured with reggae bands, country bands, pop groups, weird art bands in Chicago. I got into speed metal at a young age, and I guess I'd say Anthrax, the drummer Charlie was my favorite drummer, first drummer. And after getting a little tired from metal, or just like, okay, this shouldn't be the only thing I listen to, then I started listening to everything. Broadened my, I would finally listen to the Beatles and Stones, where my dad would try to turn me on to when I was a kid. I'm like, nah, not that stuff. I started listening to everything and broadened myself and not just play metal. But starting as a metal drummer, you can go anywhere from there because you already got crazy endurance. So even dabbling with jazz, just for shits, to be able to handle that other end of the spectrum. Yeah. For this drummer anyways, I wasn't too locked into one style. And I can read people who write good music, I can read them well and pick it up very fast. Yeah. Versatility. Yeah. And Europe, Spain, really good people. Love. just the difference between Germany and Spain, very different. You finish a show in Spain and they want to come talk to you. In Germany, like, you're not sure if they liked you or not. Just culture-wise. But England, we always did great, and, great people. Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, we spent a lot of time in, and we're very popular there. Good people. But if I could go back and do a show, I'd say like Madrid or Bilbao. I remember some of the best shows there.
Is it like the crowd or the energy?
The energy. Just people that like to have fun. They love your band, and man, good fans. Yeah.
Did you understand it? Like anybody talking to you?
Yeah, a lot of countries in Europe, it's so diverse there. It's like from state to state. Here we have the same languages. Over there, from one country to the next, they're just small countries. They speak a different language over there. So kids normally come up in Europe speaking 3 or 4 languages. That's pretty average. And they're all taught English. And especially the people, the promoters who are hiring us, they speak English. But sometimes in countries you talk to fans, they don't, but they do their best, and I do my best to understand them, sign language, and you're in a loud club too, so yeah, it's crazy. Since I did a lot of art before doing murals, my chosen process was a reverse glass painting. That started from finding window panes in alleys in Chicago. I moved out to Logan Square, and there was a lot of overturn, people buying buildings and updating them and stuff. So I'd find like 30 windows in one spot, carry them home on my head, and start painting on those because they were already framed canvases. So I'd just grab, they're usually square or rectangle, and kind of just go through my, I had a sketchbook, but it was mostly words. I didn't do a lot of sketches, but just ideas for paintings. And it didn't take me more than like 5 minutes, like, oh, I want to paint that on that, I didn't think too long or too deep about creating a piece. Come up with the subject and then go at it.
Yeah.
I've never pondered one piece of art for a terribly long time. I deal more with like composition. I can take a very simple image, like I painted a rubber ducky recently, but turn it into a pixelization, and it was all yellow and stuff and pretty basic, but it was the first thing to sell at that art show, It's all about how you compose that simple image. And I've always thought that, like, the subject matter doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just something that's pleasant, that you like, that I like first, and if I like it, I think I have a good judgment of what people are going to like, and you don't want to cater always to what people are going to buy. But you do have to consider that. For instance, when I painted that piece there, I'm thinking the whole time, like, I'm going to be stuck with this one for a long time. It's kind of a loaded piece, It's got all these controversial fast food icons. I mean, there's a pedophile over there, and Taco Bell has like a history of like cartel issues and stuff, like their beef farms in Mexico. Yeah, they got blood on their hands. They're not all like super great corporations, and they're carrying an oversized casket. Like who's gonna put that in their house? So I try to show it, and the right person will come along someday. But like when deciding what to paint, you ask yourself, is this too far out there? Am I going to be stuck with this forever? Sometimes that's fine. I would always try to make that judgment, is this too self-indulgent? Like, or might someone want this, Eventually, probably, yeah. Yeah, I'm open to offers at this point because I've had it for 5 or 6 years. Yeah. It's big, too. It's a big, breakable piece of glass. So it needs to get on a wall and stay there. This particular piece of glass is very thin, too. It's a storm window. So they're thin and meant to flex a little bit. And that's one reason that it's kind of durable, because it does flex. But nowadays, when I paint, I'm not bringing in old windows, from the garbage. I'm going to Nicholson's, buying a sheet of glass the size that I want, and then making my own frames. Yeah. I'm more into that modern look. Not everybody wants to put a hunk of junk in their house. Dirty 100-year-old frame. That's not everybody's aesthetic. On occasion, I still will paint an old window because I have some, but I like it to look fresh now. Yeah, I like to say that I am into every image I paint, but sometimes someone comes to you with their thing, like they already have it designed, or it's for a company, like, hey, we'd like this painted big on the wall. That's a job. I may not be like artistically invested into that, but that's only say 25% of the time. It's good money for my family. I want to provide and have comfort, so I'll do that. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've like turned down because I really wasn't into it. Oh, it was like a pro-Trump thing that someone wanted me to paint in Michigan, small town, and like I'm gonna be that guy up there on that ladder for several days doing that. I don't know if I want to be that public with that stuff. because I was not into Donald Trump.
Yeah, I understand.
So I did turn that down. I lived there a long time, and I lived in several neighborhoods.
So you know how to maneuver.
Yeah, yeah. I'm usually on a property like a business or something, and it's well lit. And I do initially do a big night session where I'm out there very late with a projector on top of my van, and I'm way up on the wall, drawing it in. I did one in Pilsen a couple years ago, where just a street where anything could have happened because there's nobody around. I'm out there very late at night. I know the reputation, but I also think that maybe what I do might be respected a little bit more. I don't have to be too worried. I got cans of spray paint out there. I've never come across people that wanted to do me any harm, but I have had stuff in Chicago very recently, like blatantly tagged over when it was a commissioned mural by a business. And so you're hurting that. They're hurting them, and they're also like, my name's there, and you're saying fuck you to the artist as well, big, And that was this year. I got repaid by the business owner to touch it up. Yeah, I had to say, like, I can't be the one who paints over that tag, the giant tag. They actually have, the alderman has, like, each neighborhood has a crew that'll come out. They're paid by the city and cover it up. Once that's done, I can redo my art there. And then we'll put some anti-graffiti stuff on this time, so it's like a rubber coating. It's what the customer wanted, and I just had my stipulations, like, I can't paint over that tag. Someone else can, but I'll redo the mural. It's always got to be on your mind, Hopefully, I hope nobody has a problem with this, what I'm doing, And I didn't start by way of like painting illegally in the streets, so I don't have their perspective 100%. I don't understand it 100%. But I hope they can understand where I'm coming from. Like, I was hired to do this. I think there's a little bit of jealousy maybe between people who aren't being paid to do murals. Like, because murals are paying pretty good these days. But, like, by all means, get into that game. Use your skills that you've honed in the streets and get into that game. But you may have to paint what other people want you to paint. That's just what I'm doing. I don't want to say that I've never done it now. It's mostly like a word, or like not a lot of free writing, but like premeditated stencil making, and usually funny things. Nothing in Rockford, for the record. But no, if I want to like take some part of a cityscape and add something to it that makes it look like something else, that's kind of what drives me to do something in the streets. It would be something funny, not bragging rights or anything. Yeah. I have a sense of humor about a lot of things. Very little. I'm the kind of person that likes to figure something out on my own. I will ask. I'm not afraid to ask if I have a question for like a professional, someone above me. Like, I guess I have a couple friends in Chicago that I came up with as a fine artist who have gone on to murals, and so we're kind of on at the same point, and we'll bounce things off each other. Like, well, how do you handle this? Or they'll often handle me, like, how do I prime this building? What do you use? What product do you use? I've always been pretty resourceful with, I'll go to Sherwin-Williams here. They have what do they call it, a commercial store where they sell mostly to contractors. And those employees there are veteran painters of all things. So they're just like a wealth of information. So if I got a building like this metal building that's in direct sunlight and I got to paint this thing on it, what should I use to prime that sucker so it'll last a long time? I'll go ask them first, and they'll know. Yeah. But yeah, I think being resourceful is the best thing you can do. Ask questions from people who know what they're doing. As far as like help on murals, I don't know. I've hired a couple people a couple times just to get something done quicker. But I find I try to like manage people too much. I get more done with just my own pace than having to like manage other people. But I did meet someone recently who I trust on the wall, and he knows how I'm gonna want it. So, yeah, I've started getting help. But I don't call myself like a control freak, but I'm like not able to. I don't know, not willing to like trust others with it yet. And plus, there's so much to learn. I want to learn every part of the job. Like that's why I don't say no to a lot of mural jobs for that reason, because I want that curveball. I want that. How the fuck do you do that? You know, I'll learn on my own. Say, you know, tell them yes, I can do that, and then go do it. You have to do it. If you mess it up, you can paint over it. You know, hundreds at this point. Yeah. So
Like Rockford.
locally, before I lived here, I did one for the first like mural festival in 2019, where I was kind of shooed into the mural festival. I was working for the Mississippi Audubon Society, and I did the giant oriole over on Mulberry Street. It was like a 2.5-story thing. That was happening around the same time as the mural festival, and I didn't know about that. But they're like, "Hey, do you want to be a part of the festival and do it at the same time?" So that was, I guess that's not the first thing I did in Rockford. I've done multiple things for Beefaroo. South Alpine, I did that 40-foot by 8-foot, whatever it is, that big wall with a lot of colors. I did one like this, like on panels that's strapped to the building up at the Northwoods Beefaroo on North Alpine. It's like a bear following a trail of hearts. And then I talked them into strapping a giant piece of glass to the outside of the building on Riverside. And that piece is still there, holding up. And just did a little installation piece for Beefaroo by Edgebrook. Outside of that, first mural that I call my first mural was in Freeport, the big alley piece right by the theater downtown. It was like 35 by 20 feet, something like that. Pretty nice big piece. Very indicative of my style. They let me like design it and really have fun with it. And the person who hired me was into my art and said, "Do what you do." So it's a mural I like a lot, and it's over there in Freeport. Then the next big one I did after that, I think, was Nashville, because of my music ties down there. The guy that used to produce our records, he said, "The hell with the music business," and he went into real estate. And then he called my name when he saw that I started doing murals. He said, "Hey, you want to do a big one down here in Nashville?" And to this day, it's still one of the biggest ones I've done. 62 by 35 feet on the side of a hill on a lift that is a little bit dangerous. But that's part of a mural tour in Nashville. I've done a lot in the city of Chicago. Chicago Public Library in West Loop, I did a really cool piece a few years ago in the winter and way up on a windy scaffolding. I applied some techniques to that one in my learning my learning phase of things, like, that were so dangerous, and like, I can't believe I did it. Like building my own 3-level scaffolding in the street in the middle of the night just to have a projector on it across the street. So dangerous. I'm still here, and I've learned from it, and I've learned better ways to do that. You know, there's different ways to get the image on the building. Yeah. Through my years of just making money as a musician, like, the money was sustainable-ish, but not enough to support a family. But during that time, I became a fine artist, selling these paintings on glass. There was just a lot of stress there, because to have a household and you're starting to have kids and having to rely on the sales of that, you can't rely on the sale of art necessarily, but you gotta hustle. Like, if you hustle, I just produced such a mass quantity of it and made sure to get it in front of people. Like, to answer your question, I haven't had like real tough times where I went through a period of time of not being able to sell. From the get-go, or leaving the band and going directly into just being an artist, I haven't had to get a job or anything like that, and that's been since 2016. Before that, I was supplemented by the band's money and a little bit of art sales. But once I quit being a professional musician, I knew I was pretty ruined and could not go back to working for someone. After being a musician that made money for 10 years, like, I better make this art work. And man, having a kid, having a 2-year-old daughter at the time, and then also another thing that happened in 2012, I almost died, or did die a couple times. I had a failing heart. I have a pacemaker now. I have an artificial machine on my heart. 2012, I was fainting, passing out. My heart was stopping. We didn't know my heart was stopping several times until I was like on heart monitor when it happened once. But that'll give you some drive. Yeah, I got a family. I got a daughter. I'm providing for the family. Like, you gotta make this work, and it gives you a zest for life when you're like saved like that. Like, I got this machine thanks to modern technology. 50 years ago, I'd been that guy that died in his sleep. So since then, since 2012, I really stepped on the gas, and I'm going to make this work. I'm going to be a professional artist, till the day I die, basically. It's got to happen. And all it really takes is putting yourself out there, be honest with yourself, do good work, do a lot of good work. Like, I don't let something leave my studio if I don't really like it. But if I'm cool with it, other people probably will be. Living in Chicago, I would go into businesses, like look at businesses, like, is this the kind of place that would host an artist like me? Like, I can make it easy on them. I can come in and do a display, and I handle the sales. You don't have to worry about it, but your place will look nice. I started doing that, just making that happen. And then that was like, a couple sales a month. Plus, so salons, cafes, restaurants. Chicago's a place where people travel to just to eat food. It's such a competitive food place. So I'd want my art in those places where they're packed every day, And I'm selling them to people who are taking them home to California, wherever, sending them to Europe, whatever. Find the audience. And then I needed to ramp it up, because just like the luck of selling in restaurants and cafes, I'm thinking, how long can this go on for? How long can this luck, work? So I started getting into street fairs, and Chicago has 20 or 30 a year. I started getting into them, and it's scary because you have to pay a lot of money to start it. Shell out $550 to get a 10 by 10. And it might rain that weekend. Scary shit, It might be a bust. And but the first one I did, man, I scored. Like, I found the right one, Wells Street Art Fair in Chicago, and it was young people that work at ad agencies with big loft apartments. They live there, and it's a drinking festival too. And so, like, people are having fun, and it's not a craft fair. It's like fine art festival. So people come in there expecting to pay hundreds of dollars for stuff, and I made $8,000 that first fair I did in 2 days. Like, oh, this is the way. This is the new way. So then for the next 3-4 years, I was signing up for as many as I could, getting accepted. You have to be accepted too. You don't just sign up and get in. You have to pay money to find out if they choose you. It's crazy. But that's the hustle. I mean, people that want to be in it will get in there. Did that until murals started cracking, and that money was better than that. So I use both Montanas. I think I prefer Spanish Montana, though German Montana's got a few lines of colors that I like better. But some really good gradients in the Spanish Montana 94. So Montana 94 and Montana Gold and Black are the ones I buy the most. Sponsored for material?
Yes.
No, I've never tried that. I just, I've heard that it's hard to get to that point for Montana to like sponsor you. You gotta be a really big name. I have less than 5,000 followers on Instagram. Like who am I? I think I'm someone who does a lot of work and makes enough money to be comfortable. But like, as far as like fame goes, like there's some famous artists out there. I don't really put myself with them. Not yet, but I'd like to. But I'm a bit of a different artist. For the fact that I do things that aren't my designs, I'll take their design and do it. I'm more of like a muralist who will do whatever, and sometimes I get to paint exactly what I want, and that's the fun part. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Advice. Definitely, I like what I was saying. Do good work. Be honest with yourself, because your friends and family might buy your stuff. They will. That'll only work for a while, but that could give you a false sense of accomplishment, whatnot. Everybody needs to challenge themselves to get into different markets. Go towards Chicago if you're from here. Go to a major market and test your stuff out. Like, you may have to hit the street too to find someone to give you the opportunity. You can go there, spend a day, and just go into some businesses. And are they the kind of place that could host something that I make? Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to do it. A lot of artists have social anxieties and stuff, and that's a real thing. And not saying I'm the best person with that. Like, I do have anxieties. So what I would say to that is just like face your fears and go do it, because what do you have to lose? You don't have much to lose. You'll get used to it. If you bomb the first time or whatever, just test those waters. Nobody can blame you for trying. Just do good work and get it out there. Don't be afraid to, because it would be kick-ass to be a full-time artist, right? I'm Brett Whitacre, and this is From A to Z.
Thank you.